Okay, glad to have you back on this segment of Engendered. And if you're just joining us, you're right in time because the show is just about to begin. And today on the show, we're going to be having a very interesting topic and a very important guest too on the show. She's like our mommy. So, and we're going to be discussing something that is really peculiar to the northern part of Nigeria. Let me just read the particular statistics before we start the show. So this says 43% of girls in Nigeria are married before their 18th birthday and 16% are married before the age of 15. 3% of boys in Nigeria are married before the age of 18. Child marriage is the most common in the northwest and northeast of Nigeria, where 68% and 57% of women aged 20 to 49 were married before their 18th birthday. Now, I'm not up to 30. I'm above 20. I cannot imagine me getting married maybe while I was in secondary school or being a dropout from secondary school and things like that. And I remember a particular story, Victoria, let me bring you into this. There's a particular story where while we were growing up, I did not know it was child marriage then, where we had cases where students just drop out from school and you ask what happened. They say maybe her parents asked her to stop coming to you. Only for you coming to school, only for you to grow up, and then you see pictures on social media finding out that at the age of 25, she already has a 10-year-old daughter. And you're wondering, when did she give birth? When did this happen to her? So, and this deprives the girl child of the education that they are meant to get and their entitlement at a tender age. And today on the program, we're going to be doing this particular discussion with a gender activist, Mama Engendered. You're welcome to the show. She's also known as Mama Gender.
I was going to ask the reason for that.
Yeah, she's going to let us know why. The title.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So perhaps tell us first what brought about the name Mama Gender, because when I saw it, I was like, Mama Gender. Okay, so.
You know, a lot of people believe that the way I relate with gender issues, the way I link gender issues, the way I relate it to development, culture, and different aspects of our life is unique. There are those who accuse me of bringing morality into gender. For example, if females are not empowered, I look at it from a greater depth.
Okay.
And if they are not empowered, it means they will be made vulnerable. And making them vulnerable, one of those areas of vulnerability is the aspect that they have to depend on a man, not necessarily their own husband. You know, so it means you are making the woman to be her humanity to be tampered with, to the extent that the dignity in the human person to be eroded. So for many of them, they just feel that I take special interest in women's issues. And when I want to look at things economically, I'm interested in the gender aspect of the economy. Okay. How, like a filling station, like I remember yesterday, we went to a filling station and I insisted that we buy from 2 filling stations in particular because they are owned and managed by women. Because there are a lot of, it's an area that is male dominated. Okay. So chances are that if you don't deliberately buy from the females, more males will patronize the females, and they will have higher turnover. And that higher turnover will have a negative impact on the women's own low turnout. So it will be very difficult to explain why they are not able to finish their own products. Okay. So all those minute details, they believe that I look at it more critically than a lot of people.
Which of course you do, because normally I wouldn't look at it from that
aspect, because that takes a high level of intentionality. Yeah. If I want to do that, I will just step out and buy from anybody as long as the place is free. Okay, now from your own understanding with what we've said about, we're discussing child marriage today on the show, child bride. So what is your own perspective or understanding of what we term child marriage?
Yeah, you know, if you look at the statistics you share,
yes,
a lot of people will just conclude that it's not just child marriage, it's girl-child marriage. So yes, groomed, you hardly have children that are groomed, but if many of the brides we have that are children, child bride, most of them are girls. And a lot of people try to blame it on the culture and religion, but we know culture and religion are not static. So we don't want to even accept that in the first instance. So it's just sheer lack of knowledge of what the capacity that the girl child has. For example, you talked about the far northern, when people talk about the northern countries and the northern states, they look at the other states where you speak Hausa and Fulani or Fufude. But it's not so. I'm from Benue. I was married up before my 9th birthday. So how do you want to explain that my father wasn't poor, my mother wasn't poor, and my father went to school, went to elementary 3. So elementary 3 in those days is very top level education, and they were enlightened, and he worked with colonialists. So he had no reason, he stayed in the city. He went to fight the Burma War, so he had no reason at all to allow me to be married off. So it's not only the northern states, even there are states too within Nigeria that marry off their children in that manner. When you look at it, it's not marriage, because you will not say marriage, because marriage is when two consenting adults that both of them are not less than 18 years. That is, they are above 18 years. That is when you want to talk about marriage, because psychologically they are mature, financially, spiritually, and emotionally they are mature to be able to handle the difficult tasks of marriage institution. So what they do here is just sheer greed of just destroying and depleting womanhood, and looking at it in a larger picture, the human resource that a country should have, they destroy it. So if you link it generally, you realize that lack of awareness, just anxiety, because some say, oh, let the woman be married so that she will remain a virgin. So what stops a man from becoming a virgin? So if you are anxious about a woman becoming a virgin, what about the man? To be married as a virgin. So because they want to protect, they claim they want to protect the woman's sanity, so that she remains a virgin, which doesn't make much sense. I'm not saying we should be reckless with our bodies, but it's just lack of enlightenment and the misunderstood culture, misplaced culture, or misinterpreted or misused opportunities. And as a result of that, you realize that we're having a problem. I want you to look at it. If you link it to what is happening in the National Assembly, if we had women and men grow together, because if you look at the population, male and females are almost the same percentage. If they were able to grow together and they went to school, as you mentioned, some girls just dropped out of school, and there's that culture of silence, there's that conspiracy, you realize that they are not able to grow together, and because they are not able to grow together, you don't see that balance. That's why you find that in the Senate now, like this 9th assembly, this outgoing assembly, you notice that even the principal officers of the 18 of them, only one is a woman, Right Honorable Nkiruka Onijocha. So there is no balance. And if you look at even the campaign for the 10th assembly, it's as a result, if the men look back, they are not seeing their equal, the females who should have grown with them as a result of this anxiety about marriage. And many of the marriages are broken, unfortunately, because there isn't that maturity, there isn't all the skills you need to sustain the rigor of marriage. So in every part of our life, national life is affected. Spiritually, it affects us. Socially, it affects us, because you don't have your class of people that you relate with. The men can have their classmates from secondary up to their PhD, even as professors. But the women, when you look back, they are very far away. Behind. So are we supposed to be leaving anybody behind? So this is the problem.
Yeah, I see we're already getting into the rippling effect. But before we get there, you spoke about consent earlier.
Yeah.
So we actually see young ladies who probably would give into early marriages, not someone, because at a tender age already, they're already speaking about how they just finish primary school. In fact, they're not even interested in schooling. They just want to be done with primary school, then move to their husband's house because they aren't interested. Like I said, you think the shared blame should go to enlightenment, a lack of enlightenment?
Yeah, it's a whole lot of, like I said, there's so much anxiety too around marriage. The culture is such that if a woman is not married and she's getting matured, there's always that anxiety. And for the woman, generally, the best thing that a number of them are made to see, the biggest achievement, like others, even other what we call the small African countries, for them is when you achieve, when you are able to contribute to your country, your community, and develop yourself. But our own is whatever you do, provided you are married, you are considered to be successful, which is not a measure of success at all. It shouldn't be. It should be just one of the measures of success. It shouldn't be the major of success. And if we talk about them being happy, the females being happy to go and marry, because they've been conditioned to accept it. Like in my own case now, the marriage of my mother was threatened, and she will not be accepted in her family because there is a there is a lineage of ignorance in terms of everybody that is around the family, because they would have the same kind of mindset that is not leading us to any place higher than where we are, that you can see up to today. So for many of them, the ignorance has made, and the fear of if I'm driven to my father's house and my father drives me back to my husband's house because I want my daughter Mary or my daughter Amina to be married, where will I go? So that fear, because the economic structure too is not equitable. It's very unfairly tilted towards the men. So it is the men who own the farm, it is the men who own they were there who inherit the parents, it's them who just grab anything they want to grab. In politics, it's them who have chunk of money. So anywhere you turn, whether it's the bank, they have the shares. Business, if you hear of Dangote, how many of such do we have? If not Alakija and free women. So the issue of power play, that is the power over. They have too much power. Every kind of power you think of. If it's terror, they have. If it's for motivation, they have. If it is equipment, they have. How many of the 18 presidential candidates, how many? Not even one woman in a country like this in 2023. So everything that gives people privilege and opportunity above other people in terms of what you can grab and your voice, the visibility, the respect, it's with the men. So it's a perpetuation of inequality over time, and we are still seeing it. Look at me, look at your colleagues now. Most of the resources they have, most of the equipment they have, most of the quality of social capital they have in terms of friends. They can make friends with your chair, the chair of KAFTAN TV. If you try that to be misunderstood, they give you heavy label and stigmatize you to the extent that you chicken out. But they will be so happy to rub shoulder with the chair. So everything that has to do with the way the culture is practiced, the way it's practiced, so not the culture itself, it doesn't make us to progress. Look at other smaller African countries. Look at how they are moving very fast in their parliament, in media. How many women own media stations in Nigeria? Only one woman owns a big radio station. Only Tom owns the women's radio that is big. It has 6 licenses. The other ones are smaller ones. You hear about them. How many women own television? Not one woman. I had a desire to own one. I was so ambitious 27 years ago, but I realized that it's not about your determination to do it, but the support structure. Men have support structure. If it comes to motivation, like I said earlier, they will give to you. If it comes to gang up, they have, if it's voice. A man does not need, only few of us have the privilege of coming to KAFTAN TV to come and speak. Who are you as a woman to go and be speaking? Not all the women. The men, they can only tell their wife later, or the wife or their partners will see them. So everything, the way the society is structured, since ages past, is what we are still seeing. Like the current thing I like us to look at is the way we are going about the National Assembly, which is a pillar of democracy, holding democracy from four corners of Nigeria. They are not, somebody even had the guts to say, why should women aspire to be speaker, for God's sake? If we had the first female speaker in 2007, even in Benue, we had the first state speaker, Margaret Ichen, as the House of Assembly speaker, the first in the country. In Benue State, a state like Benue, not the southwest or the southeast. I said it because of their educational advancement. So it's a problem. They don't want women to be educated. Look at all the, or like somebody, look at many states, many courses. How many women will you see there that are studying engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering, all the things? Oh, to waste time before you go and give birth.
And get married.
Get married
Okay,
and have children.
Sorry to cut you now, but let's look at it from this particular aspect now. I know that there's been a lot of sensitization information going out there and informing people about this. Recently, I know of a particular group that had a conference or a program that was supporting the girl child to go back to school. And the girl just came out and she said she was, I think, 14 or 15. And her parents just pushed her into that child marriage. And she already has a child now for the man. And the parents just pushed her into that marriage. Now, we're looking at the aspect of women supporting women, women helping other women. We see our mothers, not particularly our mother, but we see women in society that have been sensitized about this. But whenever the opportunity still comes out, they're still at the forefront, putting their children out there to go for the early marriage and giving them advice on how it's going to go. Why do you think that despite so much information and sensitization, this is still happening and occurring in this century?
You know, the way culture is holding us is too strong. We are looking at it from very cosmetic as well as very simplistic way. It's deeper than that, this culture you are seeing. Many of these people you see parading themselves, they wear tie, dress well, speak good English. They are not as civilized as you think. Oh. Many of them are very archaic in their thinking. The culture is right in their brain, and that is what they are exhibiting. That is what is propelling what they do when they go to the chambers. Anywhere they are, as policymakers, what they say. So if you want to blame the women, you are blaming a victim. The women, there are subtle and outright threats against their lives. If you are to be divorced, you say, is it because your daughter needs to marry? She can go to school in the husband's house. So it's beyond advocacy. We need to balance it. Unfortunately, the international communities are not helping matters. They bring their own cosmetics type of structured program from somewhere, and they want to just implement it without looking at the context. Nigeria is the most difficult country in the world. That's why you see that even the politics of Nigeria is very complex. So it's very difficult for you to be able to bring a program, an advocacy program, and say, okay, let's do this. Money is available. What if there is a gang up from the community against the mother? The mother alone can't say, we don't have a support structure to say, okay, we are standing behind you. It's not like it's happening in FCT. My mother would have lost her marriage. Today, I would have been tagged somebody who facilitated the mother's leaving her marriage because she wanted to be educated. I went through very torturous routes to be educated. So what we need to look at is holistically. If the National Assembly, those who elect into the National Assembly, have the consciousness that, look, there needs to be equity, then they will encourage in all that they do, the oversight, the budget, then the constituency. There are three major mandates. They will be able to push and see how it will affect the girl child. It is then the mother will have strength, not small money that the international organization or NGO will bring, and they'll be struggling to bring about. If you have structure, you have policies that support girl child education particularly. Many of the men, they will know that you don't need to take the money that is meant for, even if you have triplets and you have one girl among the two boys, they prefer to send the two boys to school at the expense of the girl. So if you have even equity in your education, the allocation, the implementation, even the oversight, it will be easy. Your scholarship, if you have that, and like the feeding program they have, if you also have it, it's helpful. Look at something as basic as menstrual hygiene.
Hygiene.
It's stopping people from going to school. You can see that as a result of that project that was launched, many girls are not going to school. If not the period they are having, when they are having, observing their period, monthly period, they don't go to school, they lose so much. So you need sundry policy. I did education. I worked as an auxiliary teacher. I also work as grade 2 teacher, NC teacher, and graduate teacher. Then I did a postgraduate training too in teaching. So I understand this, that it takes so much for you to be able to, when I say so much, I mean concerted effort that is reinforcing, so that it's not an isolated thing. Just go, okay, everybody go to school. Hey, no child should be stopped from going to school. It doesn't work that way. It's something you plan and you execute conscientiously, but we have not seen it happen.
Okay, now we're speaking about culture being, especially the interpretation of culture by Nigerians or Africans as a major root for the issues we're having for as a result to every child girl married. Now you also spoke about, I was going to ask if it's possible to break out from such cultural interpretation, and then you spoke about National Assembly being an aid to help eradicate.
Yes, it's possible.
But is it possible, because we have those men in that hem of affairs occupying those seats, and they've been oriented to think the way they think. Would they want a change?
Yeah, we can do it, because if you see the role the Constitution has given us, according to Section 23 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999, as amended, we have been given the mandate to hold out stakeholders accountable to people who are marginalized particularly. And if you look at Section 24 of that Constitution, Chapter 2, it also talks about our values. If you place that side by side, you know that most of what they are doing is against the ordinary Nigerian people.
But realistically, they are in the Constitution, but are they being applied?
You know why we have to apply it and force them to apply it? Look at most of the people in the National Assembly. Many of them, their children are educated in the best universities in the world. They do their master's, they do their PhD, and they come back, and they come as diasporans, and they come and do another layer of oppression on us. Why don't they marry their children? Why do they allow? And when most of those children go outside, they either bring husbands from the very sophisticated marrying they do, or when they go out as diasporans, they marry. So why do they not allow their children to school here in the first instance? Why do they not marry? Look at all of them. There's none of these men, even those who have married girls, who have married teenagers, children, none of them ever married their own children out. So if we call them out, we make a list, realistic list, and say, you've done this for your own children, and you are doing this to other children. That is, you are doing it against them. You are putting them down, and you are elevating your own children. We've seen how they have done their weddings now, in the most sophisticated and oppressive way, and using our resources. So we should be able to investigate it. That's a lot of us believe that the EFCC should have a section that is looking at the social aspect of corruption, where they get husbands. Many of them buy husbands for their children, and many too go to families that they acquire wives for their children that ordinarily they will not be able to get. So if they didn't go to Harvard, they didn't go to Oxford, and other very high world-class universities around the world, they will not be able to meet to see each other. And the value that has been placed on those their children will not be there. So if they are doing it, so why would they? We should compel them. That's why when we look at people who we are going to elect, or when we have elected, even those that are there now, we should begin to keep records and see how they are behaving, what they are saying, what they are doing, and bring them at par and be able to see, does it favor the ordinary person like me? Like me, I have opportunity of remedial education that I had to get people help me to go, but the trauma is still there, the trauma that goes with early marriage. There are so many things. It's not vulgar to say that, look, by the time you marry early, you will not even want to have an affair with a man. So they might begin to give you all sorts of tags to say, oh, this one is a lesbian, but because you've seen what you are not supposed to see at a tender age, and you are frightened. Because this thing they call love making, somebody is bringing something to you, you don't even know what it is. Okay. You are not prepared.
Okay, now
yes.
That's what I was about to ask you now. You mentioned the fact that You were married or before the age of 9?
Before my 9th birthday.
Before your 9th birthday.
Yes.
And now let's look at
and
it
it's
from...
affecting me up to now.
Yes, let's look at the effects now.
Yes.
Let's talk about the effects. How does this affect the female gender? If you permit me for you to personalize it, if you can share with us how personally it affected you.
Yes, you see, a lot of women too who are probably like Obi, she's also a survivor. She was a child bride.
Okay.
Yes, just that she's lucky. We are both lucky that we came out of it, but it has left a scar on us. People may not see the scar, but in our attitude to the male, it's not the natural way you are afraid of the man because it keeps reminding you of what happened before. The psychological impact is there. Even the economic impact is there. The way you would have grown normally, you are not able to grow. They
it's distorted.
Put you under pressure. What does a small girl know about marriage? When she'll be asking for biscuit or chewing gum or something, or doing kwakwango, doing enter, then you say, come, you are a married woman. She doesn't understand the implication. So that premature, you pushed her into a level that she was not prepared to. So psychologically, she loses that balance. And it takes so long. Then she begins to hate some people, and it's not something that can go away. So that trauma, we have not seen it being addressed by our country or our community or by the family, so that you can be forgiving to say, okay, what happened to you? And how did it happen to you? How did you feel? Which part here hurt you most? The part that hurt you, say, why should this old woman marry me? Because you are young, you can't understand. You see him as a wicked person. Meanwhile, he's not actually a wicked person, but he's just a setup that he fell for some very cheap kind of cultural display. So it's possible. We can change it. Many things are changing now. The way we used to dress, people used to just use ordinary leaf. They are no longer using. People use animal skin. So no culture is static. The way we used to eat food, we are not eating it. So anything too that is not progressive, we should abandon it and go for the progress. So it can be done. All of us can agree and work on it, and all of us can be on guard to keep watch, like you are discussing it, and people see it and say, it doesn't have any advantage.
Okay, some people...
Because it took long before I gave birth. Because many things in your body will be destroyed. Your system is not ready to accept the male organ, and the man is pushing his way. So many things will naturally be, and there will be that anxiety for you to get pregnant. How do you want to get pregnant? How do you want to give birth to the child? A child giving birth to a child.
Possibly your menstruation that might not have started.
It is when we listen, they want to force it to happen prematurely. So, and many of them feel that they want a tender woman, for God's sake. Let them be real now. The reward is growing. Go and marry somebody who is your age. Don't go and look for a baby to marry. Because she will forever, you see, also have murdered their husband. Even as young as they, out of anger.
Yeah.
And you see the law
of that.
somehow. That's why there has been this argument. Somebody who was forced into a relationship and that happened, she should be tried for murder in defense of her life. So there's the argument. So in its entirety, it's not good. The cost on the country is too much in terms of growing. You need to grow with your mate. You need to have access, whether you want to work in the media, not that you become housewife by force.
Okay.
Nobody should
Sorry,
be forced
Ricky.
to.
I also want to ask a follow-up question. So still talking about the effects now.
Yes.
Some people say that this child marriage breeds rape. Like the
Yes,
girl child there, they feel like
continuous
they're
rape.
But some people are also of the opinion, because I've seen this, they dragged this case and it goes to the newspaper and they said that once you're married, your husband is entitled to your body. There's no rape.
It's not automatic. This thing doesn't work that way. He is there. That's why a lot of people believe that the VAB Act, I have the privilege of being the first VAB coordinator in Nigeria, according to Section 42 of the FCT VAB. The issue is that is marital rape. There is no consent. You cannot just look. It's better for us to accept this, that look, the world is changing. That you have married somebody either forcefully or through haphazard consent or through something that is not so clear, or the person just sluggishly accepted, does not mean that you have bought the entirety of the person. It's not a property you have purchased. So I like us to study these laws. To young men and young women, study the law. parents study the law, because that law is strong. And I'm absolutely excited about what the young professor there, just Dr. Fati, the native DG, she's the best we have had so far in terms of, in fact, in the whole country, I want to say that she's the best thing that has happened to this government, the best in terms of the implementation of the BABA. It bites. As young as she is, she's done so well in terms of getting people instant justice. Go and look at the record. So we must get more of her lights to be able to enforce justice. I know Dame Julie Oka Donley, she tried to do it on that basis. They threw her out of there because they just couldn't stand the beauty of fresh girls. For God's sake, what is that? They matured and they don't want other people to mature. Their children are matured.
Well,
okay.
I have more questions.
I think, yes, you hold on to your questions. Thank you so much for your answers. All right, viewers, we'll be going on a short break now. And when we return, Engendered continues. We'll be right back.
Okay, welcome back to Engendered. In case you're just joining us, like I said, it's Engendered, and we're joined by our guest who has been in the house talking to us about early child marriage. Before we went on that break, I was going to ask questions as to, first of all, what should be the age gap between a man and a woman? But before I go there, you spoke about support structure.
Yeah.
Yes. And many times, women are often perceived as women's problems.
No.
Because, like, I'll give you an instance. In Kenya, Parliament of Kenya, a woman came out, Gloria. She was trying to demonstrate menstrual hygiene and how. And
got her clothes stained, yeah.
Came and stood out almost immediately. And we also see women in Nigeria and Africa, once you're 25,
when are you getting married? Exactly.
Your boyfriend, who is your boyfriend, who is your parents, when are you getting married?
And the pressure gets on
so
you.
the pressure gets high. So don't you think, I know you claim women are the victims here.
No, not claim. That is a fact from statistics, from the evidences we have. Most of those things you see play out is men who propel, arrange women to go and do most of those things. Women on their own will not do it. Women are not each other's enemies. If you look at it, go and look at criminal records, look at social records, look at civil cases. How many women have carried shoe, hit each other, heel, fight? Here, have you fought over boyfriend? Is a man who is a man who no is a man who will go and say, you see, this one is eyeing me. Meanwhile, he's the one looking for that one. On their own, women will never fight. Oh, truly. Even when you marry women, those who have multiple wives. I've been a victim of, I'm a survivor of serial monogamy. You know, when a man marries, he leaves. Marry, he leaves. But we didn't fight, all of us, the women who have children.
Maybe you guys understood, because I don't, if it's this century, I don't think
it's a man who will always make us to say, you see that one, she's the one who made me to leave you.
So the man
which is not true.
Yeah.
True, they are the one who magnify this thing. Even when there's a little crack, they expand the crack and force us through it to say, look at them now, they are falling. You know, so please, I like us to understand that women, the vulnerability of women is too much. We don't have money, we don't have places to run to. So they always want us to come and fight.
Is that not a reason why women are often pushed aside? Because the men, they stand their ground. Like, if it's not working, they're saying no to it. They want things to work their way. Women are often pushed aside because they do not have.
They use emotions to play.
Exactly.
No, it's not emotion. They use reasoning. They use brain. Sometimes men will not think twice. They take a decision before they think. And you cannot take a decision before you think. You have to reason out the implication. Women are the finest species of creation. Look at animals, plants, fruits. All the female species are better than men. Are better.
Okay, but no,
yes.
I'm a woman and I agree with you. But let's look at it from this other angle. What we're talking about, women supporting women.
Yes.
Like, okay, now we are in this. I don't know. Victoria might have our experience, but I've been in a place where when I go to places, I prefer to know the male gender because they are more receptive, they are more friendly, they
have a hidden agenda. Let me tell you. Okay, do you know about menopause? Okay, you who are watching, go and check menopause. You see the way we are, as beautiful as we are.
Yes.
God created a man is just straight, no decoration. All the decoration on our body, they give us one little problem or the other. Sometimes at certain time of the month, certain time of the year, certain season, something will happen to the body and it will affect your emotion. It doesn't happen with men.
Is that not the reason now why some men now feel like, okay, women, you have a lot of baggage with you?
It's not baggage, it's a healthy thing. Okay. It's not a calamity. Okay. It's not a sickness. All those things, without them, there will be no enjoyment for them.
Yeah,
but that is it. And those things is what make the beauty that we have. Yes. If you don't have breasts now, that's why some people enlarge their buttocks or hair.
Or their breast,
if you don't have it, then something is wrong. They'll be looking, okay, this one, is it a man or woman? So all those things are beautification, are assets, are gadgets, are tools, weapons God has given us to use, both for defense, for motivation, for everything. We have been given all those ones. It shouldn't be used against us. So if there is a reaction, if there is a hormonal imbalance and something is reacting, nobody should blame us, because like menopause now, I reached menopause early in life. So it's possible it's the early marriage, that first marriage that caused it. Not only child bride, first one. So as a result of that, the hormonal interplay can make you to just suddenly become moody, and then they say, oh, look at this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sincerely, I agree with you.
Don't ever agree that women are each other's enemies. Go look at politically. How many women are fighting each other?
No, sometimes they
economically.
Sometimes they play out.
You can't support because there are male guardians who chose themselves. Somebody at your workplace, somebody will choose that is your guardian and be directing you on the path you go. And somehow, because of socialization, you agree, it's okay, this madam, she's crazy, you don't go close to her. We are not sure, maybe she's a lesbian. So, let me trade softly. So you begin to trade unnecessarily cautious. So as a result of that, it's very important for us to listen very well and watch. Women are not each other's enemy, not even women who share husband or boyfriend.
Okay, now I agree with you, because I was recently I had
we have too many challenges that we can't voice out. Mostly that's why you see women are always praying. We just take it to God.
Okay, I agree with you. Recently I had an interview with Nikki of Art Gallery, and she explained the fact that she was from a polygamous marriage where there were 15 wives, and that throughout the period of her marriage, it was the women that were helping her and taking care of her children, even when she stepped out before she left the marriage. Exactly. So I agree. But let's look at it. Since we are aware of this thing that plays out in us, we know that we have menstrual pains, we know we have cramps, we have mood swing, hormonal imbalance. Shouldn't we be more intentional and more conscious, and so that in a way that even if we have to deal with our work or challenges or have to respond to people, we don't let it affect it?
Do you know what?
Because some people don't manage it.
Yeah, you don't know why they are not able to manage it. Let me tell you something. Like me as a person, there are a lot of people, they say once they have money, they will forget about God. I worship God better when I have money. Most women, if they are empowered spiritually and materially, and they have money, they will not bother. Even if you insult them, even if you step on them, they will not bother. Take their shoe, they will go and buy another one. Money is very important. Most of what you see men do, money helps them. Money. That's why for me, when I meet anybody, I say, how many streams of income do you think is realistic for you to have? I believe in 10. Different things you do that are mutually reinforcing that you can. I studied economics.
Okay.
Yes. So you can, once you have money, you can hardly be sad. Once you know God and you have money, you'll be so content and you'll be able to assist. Somebody comes to you, that gives you contentment. So as long as women are not empowered financially or socially, and they cannot go to certain, if you are angry, you go and eat certain food, you are happy. Or you fly to certain, the
ice
men
cream
do all
and chocolate,
They go to, you take chocolate, the men will go to the club. So can you go and eat on credit? But if you have your money, so if we have that empowerment, that is the critical areas of Beijing Platform for Action. One is women and economy. If you do that, it will be very helpful. And the SDG 5, if you empower women, what will you do to the husband of Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and she'll be angry? Or Aisha, you go close to her husband, what will she be feeling jittery?
But could that be the reason why women are often pushed one way? Because they feel like when they begin to get this financial money, financial aid they get, or when they become very wealthy or influential, they might say they might not really consider the man.
You see,
Yes.
that also is the inferior. You know, the men easily feel inferior. They have this complex. Like somebody say, hey, is it because of this your money now? This your job, I can stop you now from going.
You know you're a
It
woman,
is
right?
very meaningless. You are a woman, you know you are limited. Where does that kind of, the Bible says the body, man and woman are created to support. It's a natural law that we are breaking if we are not able to grow together. If a woman here is made an MD or given elevation and somebody is eyeing her that why she should be there, there should be balancing. If you cannot have equity, equity is a natural way of bringing harmony, bringing joy, bringing togetherness, and bringing mutual growth and harmony among yourself. So that nobody should be threatened. But men are mostly threatened if the women are rising. It's a bad cultural response to the empowerment of women. A woman wants to travel, the husband says you cannot travel. What are you traveling for? This trip, is it not okay? You go and say something. Are you the only one who has mouth? You have to talk. Now, if your gifting is talking, you go and talk. And if your gifting is the type that you go, you mobilize people, say, are you the only one going? Let other people go. So the envy is there, but somehow, what we need to do is also to conscientize women more and more and say, this is how we can manage us. And the men give themselves both formal and informal trainings. They do mentorship. Women who is mentoring us. If a man says he's mentoring, it can be very dangerous. Can add in another thing. But a woman, you are safer with a woman. But it is not when the women have money they can mentor. If you go for the mentoring, somebody told me we should have a strategy session. Then he said we must have good food on the table. That is meant for you. You know, so women too should be able to have this. You call your sister to a mentoring session. That's okay. Later you drink water. It doesn't work. It has to go with something that will minister to the body. Or you carry something, put inside the body, or you do transfer, you receive a lot. If all these things don't work, we will not be able to have harmony. So the empowerment of women is what will give us peace in Nigeria. All of us will be at peace. The men will be at peace. We can love them more. We can take care of their children more. Maybe they want us to be taking care of children. But you see, the empowerment is very serious. So that's why you see all these politicians, they build structures for their children and grandchildren. Because they understand the power of empowerment on mentality and stability of mind and body and how you can relate. Somebody might just be moving and say, look at this one. He doesn't even want to greet. So somebody has bills that cannot settle. How will it be? You need all those things. It's very important.
I like you. You're very real and you're very practical. So let's look at this one now. You explained that you were able to move away from the child marriage. And you ran away. Please, I would like you to encourage people, because sometimes some people say we just tell them we overcame things and we don't tell them how we did it, or some people are in that position and they don't know how to take themselves out of that place. So how would you advise them? And how were you able to overcome
beyond advice? I had to run. I had to run away with the man's motorcycle. It is dangerous. If he caught me, it would have been terrible. In trying to overpower me because I was small, it would have been disastrous. But my uncles, my late uncle supported me. My mother said, hey, I didn't go to school. You must go to school. So my mother gave me
support.
Yeah, not that my father threatened to divorce her, to send my husband, my elder sister whom I was staying with. So you need collaboration, community, church, mosque, different categories of people to support you, not just the money yet, to build a shield around you, and people who will encourage you to stay strong. If not, there is no way I would have been able to run away. That's how I ran away. And when people see me, many of those who were married off, they are still in my village. When they see me, they say, hey, you are lucky, you are this. So I don't despise them, because I would have been worse than them if I was left to just have children and stay in the village. So it's very important for us to support each other. That's why one of the things, like I told you, when I meet people, what can you do? You need money. Apart from knowing God and be praying, yes, prayer answers all things, but money comes to balance it. So I encourage people. We must encourage everybody to be to have money. They'll say, is it possible? In this country, Nigeria, everybody can be rich. Even if you are lazy, everybody can have a house, minimum. Everybody can have food. Everybody can have good livelihood. Everybody can have business. Even if you want to be lazy and be sleeping more than 24 hours, you can still do it. Every girl should be able to achieve her dream. I want to go to school, I want to marry. All these things, we should be able to work it out. It's conversation. We are not saying girls should rebel, but there are certain situations it's so rigid, it's life-threatening, but with discussion, the law is not enough, because the law will not be able to address certain bad behavior we see. But the law can curtail the bad behavior. So we still continue to make the appeal, we still continue to see, let people see the advantage of going to, imagine if I didn't go to school. If I just stopped at the primary school level, primary 7. Those were the last set that did primary 7. It would not have benefited Nigeria. It's a loss on our continent. Education is so key. It's an equalization platform. It's a tool. It's a bridge that takes somebody from your lowest level to where you need to be without having any political office. So education is so important. That's why everybody in government should be interested in educating people. Let us make it mandatory, especially girl child education. We can make it compulsory up to university level. We are not losing anything. Is it undemocratic? No. Can you give girls special scholarship? You can give them. Can you give them special motivation even when it comes to funding? Can you give them certain packages for them to, even if they fail, because we don't have much knowledge, give them another one until they stabilize. Then we'll have a better country. Otherwise, we'll continue to complain Nigeria is not. I'm so sure that if we have even 35% of women in position, where we are now under the mud, we will not be there. We will be there. All this grammar they are speaking, it would have just been action. You see, if we try it, anybody that they agree to swear in, whatever they do, as we get into the next this thing. You see, if women are there, all this confusion, all these things, rumor, all these things they are saying will not be there. Women are like this. They are closest to God. So we must make sure that we get women to be part of governance. Anything we are doing, whether small within the community, transition committee or inauguration committee or anything we want to do, ministerial, everything we do, if we put women, all of you here will be happy.
Okay, I have one more question.
Okay.
Because I know I see you laughing because I know you're a prayer woman. But then I asked the question initially when we started, when we came back from the break, what should be, in order to eradicate possibly the early child, girl child?
It's possible.
Yes. What should be the age gap between a man and a woman intending to get married?
You know, like I said, you see, the man must be psychologically matured. Mostly, women are early maturers. A woman of 18. Most of the women that are 18 are more mature than the men of 18.
Yes.
But I'm not proposing that the woman should be, the gap should be too much, but it is because of the culture and the socialization process. Even those who marry wives that are 2 years older than them, they begin to be marrying mama, marrying grandmama, even if the marriage is working. So if you have age gap that is half, it's too much. Except maybe for rare, some young girls, they prefer to marry somebody who is like 20 years older than them. But if the gap is too much, sometimes it's more like some of us were called this girl. In marriage, if your wife, you are calling her girl or baby. So it's important that the gap should not be too much. If you have 10 years gap, it's fine. 15 is tolerable. But 20 upwards is a problem. Because the thinking might not be the same. You see, some young girls, they marry old men and they drag them to hellfire.
But
they drag them to their early grave.
Say that the older the better. That's what some ladies
are saying. It's problematic. The thinking might not be the same. The reasoning will not be the same. The kind of food you eat might not be the same. The dressing, the grammar, the perspective. So it can bring a sharp disagreement that can degenerate into domestic violence. You know, some young girls, they beat their husbands up. lock them up, you know, so it can threaten the men. And because some old lifestyle diseases too happen, at some time the man is weak, and you see some young classmates around his younger wife, it becomes a problem. And you, the older woman, a sugar mommy, and you decided that you want to get a young person, you want what they call the young blood. When you see his classmates, you get anxious, unnecessarily anxious. So it's better you have the age gap that you are comfortable with, that you see that this is your friend. Marry your friend, somebody you are within the same age bracket. If the age, the bigger, the larger the age, this is what I have seen from my own personal experience. It's not an easy thing, because when I lost the first man that I was given to, I had to marry another person. And there was age gap, and it was very problematic.
Okay, now you mentioned earlier that for you to be able to move away and escape, as we round up now, that there was a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Now, in this time, in this our time, everybody is on the scale of mind my business, it no concern me. I'm drinking water, I'm minding my business.
Yeah.
So it's possible that someone is being raped next door and nobody's going to check what is happening. Somebody is screaming outside, like, it's not my business, it's not my brother, it's not my sister.
No, it shouldn't be so. You never can tell.
How do you think now we can bring back that mindset? Because then they tell us that it's a community that trains a child, not just the parents.
Exactly.
So how can we still bring back that mindset now to our century to be able to, because if we are not ready to be our brother's keeper, it's not going to work.
And our sister's keeper.
Yeah.
Part of what you see, we have seen what politicians are doing to us, so it's teaching us good lesson. That's why a lot of people have said, fund, the best agency to fund, apart from an agency like NAPTIP, is the National Orientation Agency. Go back, because we know that those who are there, like those who are their staff, that they have structure up to ward level, and ward is the smallest unit of a political structure. So when you have them live among the community, they teach people. We grew up to see many of the people from MAMSA and National Orientation teach people. Those things can still be taught, and those things can be internalized, and we can go back to how we used to be, because we've seen that it didn't help us. So is it not better to see what helped us? That's why I say all these other structures, they are just there, but it's not funded. So that's why all our eyes must be on the National Assembly. That's why nobody should say, I beg, it's their matter. It's our matter, because our lives, the quality of our lives, the quality of the worship we do, since we like worshiping in Nigeria, the quality of relationship, the quality of girls in particular that we have, the quality of community life, the quality of light we have, and everything, protection. It will depend on what we do with the National Assembly people, because they are the ones, they are the biggest, they are the strongest arm of government that hold other people accountable, and nobody is holding them truly accountable. So we must put our searchlight on them so that they do the right thing. The constituency offices must function.
Definitely.
Let's go and search. Let them tell us quarterly. Let them call all of us. We'll all go and see what they are doing at all the constituencies. The 360 constituencies will work. Then the 109 in the Senate must work well. Then all the ministers, all those holding political offices, let's see how they are meeting with their people. Not that you go once in a while when during election. Otherwise, we'll not get the quality of girls we need, and we'll not be able to have an Amina Mohammed as a deputy secretary, or an Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, or somebody like the former DG, Aroma Ote. She did so exceptionally well. We will not be able to have a Dr. Hajosani, who is the permanent rep to UNESCO. She's living in Paris. So we need people like this who cannot grow them and this thing diminish. We should be able to have all of you grow to take those places all over the world. There are structures ready to accept girl children particularly.
Thank you.
I'm not saying the men will not be there, but we need more women there. The value they bring to the country is much more than the one the boys bring.
Okay, man. Now I see why they call you Mama Gender. You really love the female gender. Thank you so much.
They are
for
good.
This section.
I'm a beneficiary.
Yes, okay. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for this section.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ma. And that's all we can take on today's episode of Engendered on KAFTAN Television. And you can see our Mama Gender here. I can see why they call her Mama Gender. She really loves the female gender and she's so intentional about this. So we'll do well to join us next time for an interesting episode. I remain Chidinma Ufomadu.
So let's put an end to girl child marriage. And I am Victoria Agbi. Until next week, bye.